Welcome to Beyond Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Bachelos, and we are super excited for today's guest. I feel like I am talking to Captain America himself. Literally, his shield might be somewhere there. I haven't seen it yet, but doesn't mean I won't. I'm just going to throw some numbers at you here and just like have you listen here for a second. So, last year, we're just talking about last year's junior year. We're not even talking about his current senior year right now. 2023 NEPSAC Class A Player of the Year. 2,150 all-purpose yards, 31 TDs, in a game against Tabor Academy. We'll talk about this school a little bit. Had 40 carries for 431 yards and 8 touchdowns. 8 touchdowns is not made up. If you had him in fantasy that day, you clearly won your league. But incredible performance there. And currently, right now, and I'm giving and taking a little bit. Current stats right now, but after 7 games, about 1,500 rushing yards, 20 plus touchdowns with another game, I think at least another game remaining. So those numbers are all obviously only going to increase. And Boston College commit, current Boston College commit. So super excited to have him on here. I have a little bit of ties with him, and we'll connect the dots in a little bit. But BB&N superstar Bo McCormack.
Hey, what's going on? Glad to be on.
Yeah, man, we're glad to have you on, and the stats are just like wild. I made my mistake and like wrote my notes in pencil, so like now you're gonna see me kind of squinting and like making sure the light doesn't like hit it the wrong way. We'll never do that again. But no, it's great to have you on here. And before we kind of dive into the incredible career that you've had, and obviously will continue to have at Boston College, it was interesting. I reached out to you. Your father is like an all-time favorite in my family. Like Bob McCormack is like a legend. We always joke. I told my older brother, but my younger brother, that your brother was coming on. We just started dying laughing, and we always tell the Bob story of when he first came to our house. We probably have had about 150 wrestling matches with your father, 2-on-1, my younger brother versus your dad, and we have lost all 150 of them. And the first time your father came over our house, dude, he was destroying us in our living room upstairs, just like crushing us. And he picks up this pillow. It's the first time he's ever over our house. He might be like 15, 16 years old. He's swinging the pillow and he is about to nail us with it. He knocks out like two of our lights on like our ceiling fan, shatters everywhere. And your brother, you could tell he was just like so embarrassed, like his first time over the house. So we always tell that Bob story. Remember when Bob first came over and he smashed, like every time he came over, like, Bob, remember when you smashed the light the first time? And it became like the biggest ongoing joke. But we saw your dad, I mean, years later. I probably haven't seen your dad like 5, 6, 7 years. The last time I saw him with my brother Chris. But when I saw your dad, man, just like the same exact person, like makes you smile, makes you laugh, and just like always happy and like a good person. So I look at you and I'm like, geez, it looks just like your father did at that age, man. It's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. That's
Yeah.
actually I know you know him, but Coach uh why am I forgetting his name right now? Um Coach Clivio.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He coaches my baseball team at BB&N, and
Yeah.
that was the first thing he said when he came in. Before I'd even started playing baseball, he walked the hallways and he was like, "You must be whatever Bob McCormack's son." I'm like, "How the hell do you know that?" Whatever, and then. But that's funny. Yeah, it was the same thing. First thing he ever said to me. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
from look, he I could tell just from how whatever he said we looked the exact same. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
he's I mean, I was gonna ask you about Coach Clivio. I
mm,
mean, that's someone who I
yeah,
love and look up to and took over when he retired as, the football coach out the
mm,
Catholic. So someone who's near and dear to me and means a lot to me. So I was gonna ask you this. That's funny that the dots were connected there a little bit.
mm,
But let's talk about you, dude. I mean, there's so much we can talk about, but I kind of want to just jump into your most recent game that you just had. Let's start there. And we're gonna kind of accumulate and we're gonna kind of throw some jabs at the team you played here a little bit because over the last 2 years, holy cow, okay. You went against Tabor Academy this week, and let me just pull up the right stats here that I have for the game this week. Okay, right here. And I could be off here. Tell me if I am. Tabor Academy this last weekend. You must be sore. You gotta be sore.
Yeah,
You gotta be sore. 48 carries, 282 yards, 4 touchdowns. Your first carry of the game, first offensive play, a 59-yard touchdown was a cutback run on the first offensive play. And not only that, you had the last play on defense, the pass breakup that ended the game 0-0-0. The game's over. You win. I mean, are you sore, first of all? And second, man, just talk about that game because obviously football is a team game, but I look at the score of that game. I think it was 28-22. I see your scoring performance. We're going to talk about some quotes that your coach mentioned about you in the paper that I like to talk to you about a little bit, but just talk about that game, dude. I mean, it's fresh on your mind. It just happened. Obviously, you got another game ahead of you, but I believe this gives you at least a split of the league title.
yeah,
So that's a great thing. That's a great thing.
yeah, yeah. So first of all, I am very sore, 100%. Been icing like the all day the last 2 days, but yeah, basically, I mean, we kind of. So I went into it with a like a little thing with my foot. So I I barely played last week. I only played in the overtime period because whatever we went in, and he wasn't going to put me in, and then we ended up going to overtime. So then I whatever didn't know if my foot was ready to like whatever didn't know how well my foot would hold up. Went in, held up fine. So then he asked me going into this week because it was obviously a huge game against Tabor. So they're we were two undefeated teams going into the game, and you know obviously it was our biggest game of the year. So I went up and I said, yeah, you give me. He said, you're going to be ready for like 40 carries this week and defense, everything like that, because we're probably whatever we might need it. And I said, I'm ready for 50. So I didn't think I'd actually get it, but
Yeah, I
I
mean, they look
came
clearly. I was like,
close.
oh,
Yeah,
okay, you're ready for 50. Good to know.
yeah.
Like,
Didn't think I would actually get it, but we got pretty close. And then, obviously, it's like being able to run behind an offensive line like I have. It's makes getting yards and the scores like I did. It's makes it a whole lot easier having guys like that. So, just really, really talented kids in front of me, and then same thing with my fullbacks and receivers blocking for me. Just really tough kids who, they all just, they don't care if they get the ball, if they don't get the ball. They just care about, how the team does. And I think that's why, we were able to have success and, be a really, really good Tabor team. Probably, I would say maybe one of the best teams that I played in my, throughout high school. They had, a ton of talent. So it was a really huge win for us, obviously. And then, um, you know, Coach Willie, obviously calling great plays. So, just very lucky to have those kind of guys around me to, be able to help me succeed.
well, I want to talk about both those things you just mentioned at the end first. But first, let's talk about Tabor because you mentioned Tabor is a loaded team, a very good team, one of the best teams you've gone against. But I want to just talk about your numbers because I want to include last year against this team too. So in 2 games, you've had, and I'm again, numbers I'm doing in my head really quick here. You had 88 carries. Let's call it about a little over 700 yards and 12 touchdowns. So that's a team that you are going against that you are saying, man, this is a good team. And that's not taking anything against away from that team. I'm more just trying to talk your statistically here. Like, I mean, that's almost 100 carries against a team in a year. I mean, that team must be like, thank God we're not. Thank God Bo McCormack is going to Boston College. We never have to see this kid again. I mean, when you hear those numbers, were you aware of that? Did people make you aware of that? I mean, that's a big game. That's a get up game. That's a like, okay, is your dad knows the movie The Program, like put the
Yeah.
women and children in bed and go looking for dinner type game. Like, and you perform with over 700 yards in that game. So that's averaging 350 yards a game. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, do you look at that as people made you aware of that?
Well, if you mean like looking at it during the game, I had zero clue I had that
No,
many.
I mean afterwards. Like now that you
Um,
am I the first person to make you aware of this, or were you aware that you've had 2 just incredible games against them?
I mean, really like for us, it's, kind of like the same thing I was saying is like, we're just like the whole team really is just worried about winning. So
Yeah.
obviously, having a good game and whatever, getting a ton of yards and all that stuff is, it's obviously, nice for me and it's whatever cool, but um, I'm obviously, I'm more focused on winning and everything like that. So, but yeah, I mean, when you say the yardage and the carries, I never really thought about it with the two games combined. It is pretty cool for sure. That's
Yeah,
kind of thought of it like that, but
and that's what makes you a great leader. And like what you just said, man, it's like you almost have my script in front of you. There's something that I took from the paper that was really interesting, and we talked a little bit before we hit play here. And you decided to transfer to BB&N after your freshman year at Westford, and that's obviously a big decision. You're leaving everything that you know behind, and you're looking to better yourself. And this is the opportunity for you. And you said to me, you didn't really know BB&N.
Mhm.
After your last game, your coach was in the Boston Globe and quoting. I'm going to read this here. It says, "Obviously a great player, but watch him as a teammate. Watch him in the weight room, watch him in the class. He's an unbelievable kid who happens to be an unbelievable football player." I mean, talk about coach. I mean, that's obviously someone that you trusted in the next growth of your football development. I've heard about Bo McCormack as a young football player, and obviously now taking your game to that next level to play at the highest level you can collegiately. And this was the place that you felt, or the coach that you felt like could get you there. I mean, when your coach talks about you like that and you hear those type of words, I mean, what's it mean to you knowing that you made this decision a few years back to come here and continue your career?
yeah, I mean, when I made the decision, it was really off of just really believing in Coach Willie, because I talked to some of the whatever private school coaches in the area, and I didn't really want to go to a private school, obviously at first, and then when I met Coach Willie, I kind of right away almost I was like, I think like that would be a guy that I would really really want to play for, and I couldn't have been you know closer to the truth because I would not have wanted to play for any other coach throughout high school. I think he's the best. I think he's the best high school football coach in New England, 100%. Um, I couldn't have been any more appreciative for all that he's done for me, and I owe a whole lot to him. And I know that he wouldn't he wouldn't would ever want me to owe anything to him, but I share 100% too. He's helped me out to getting all the recognition that I've gotten and all the you know, attention from colleges and all that kind of stuff. A lot of it, really a whole lot of it has to do with him. So, I'm really, really glad that I made the decision to do that and, go to BB&N because, he's helped me out tremendously throughout, my last, 3, 4 years of high school. So,
Yeah, and you can tell obviously, he said a lot of kind things about you. I just happened to pull that one out because as a coach, I feel like, man, you are so often blessed with very talented players, but I think there's a difference between that and being blessed with like special players. And when I read something like that, I'm like, man, that's beyond talent, that's special. Like, and he was quoted saying something else is like right when you think he can't get any better, he gets even better. And yeah, I just think those types of thing when really kind of stood out to me in that article, besides obviously your numbers, but like that stuff stands out because it's like, man, that's what a coach's natural reaction is after a big victory, last play, very high emotional thing. And he's coming out and saying that bang off the cusp of his head. I mean, that's obviously speaking volumes, I think, to you and who you are. You made that decision to come to BB&N, and you mentioned something great before about all these other previous players that kind of went through
yeah.
there and, that have gotten offers and play at different places, and you kind of having schools that already have connections with BB&N, or they kind of seen you play as a result of just seeing these other guys play. Talk about just like the recruiting process because, I have a lot of listeners out there and kids that, get recruited, but not as often how you probably are getting recruited. And the caliber of athlete that you are in this sense of the schools that are interested in you. I mean, some of the schools that I wrote down, and I could be off. I mean, obviously Boston College, Syracuse, Rutgers, Nebraska. If I'm leaving anybody off the list, then no disrespect. That's what I researched and did my homework and found. But I mean, for you, that must be cool I mean, talk about when these like letters start coming in. And that starts becoming a reality of like, man, this was a dream, and this dream is starting to be like, holy cow, this is starting to happen.
Yeah, it is crazy because it's kind of like, you always are like dreaming of, that being a reality for you. And then you get a call and it just kind of all of a sudden it like hits you like, wow, like I'm going to be playing on that. The next time you go, whatever, on Saturday, you go watch a game, you're like, damn, I'm going to be playing on that field in a couple of
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
whatever. But I remember when I got the call from Nebraska, I was in my living room, and my dad was like in the room over, and I was just talking to my coach. I didn't really know. My Coach Willie, just told me, he's like, "Hey, pick up your phone. Nebraska's gonna call you." And then they had been at school earlier that day, so like at our morning lift, and then whatever, I was talking to him. He said, "Whatever, we're gonna offer you a scholarship." And then I just immediately, as soon as after I hung up, I just started screaming. Went over to my dad. He's like, "Nebraska just offered." He's like, "What did you just say?" He didn't even believe me at first, but it was crazy. And then um, obviously, like, it made it like a lot easier for me having people like you were mentioning before. All the guys playing at that level at my school with me already, like, Ronan Hannafin, Tyler Martin, Nick Schifoni, and guys like that. So, um, you know, being able to kind of ask them and use them for guidance for, how to go about, because you don't want to, get an offer and then you become some stooge that like doesn't know how to handle it and whatever, and you just kind of like whatever, you stop working and everything like that. But they really helped me, guide me through the whole thing, and how to go about, deciding where you actually want to go, because that's ultimately what it's about. It's just, it's nice to have 50 offers, but you're only going to go to one school, right? So it's, the only one that matters is the one that you end up picking. So, um, it was really good to have guys like Coach Willie and those guys guiding me through the process the whole time.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna guess. I was just gonna ask you, like, talk about that, Bo, because you are, I mean, that is overwhelming. I mean, obviously, when people start offering you and everybody starts telling you the world and everything that you want to hear, you need someone to kind of guide you through that. So, talk about maybe that process a little bit as far as obviously family decisions, relying on coach, relying on gut, relying on what you see and what you think and what you feel too. I mean, that process itself, that's to me, that's so interesting because you're a young man and you're making a big time decision for yourself. There's obviously a village that's been there for you, and the village wants to do what's best for you. But that's gotta be kind of a fun, stressful, cool, all around process, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like when you get you start like getting interest from the schools, it's all just you're happy and so excited. And then a little bit after it sets in like, okay, well, I have to pick between these guys, sooner or later.
Yeah,
So it kind of whatever, like it can get a little stressful, but then, you kind of remember it's like, it's such a blessing to be able to have those, it's pretty good to, have that be a problem in your life. So for me, I tried to never let it, get me like, super whatever, like stressed or anything like that, because it's, you know, um, I was just, you're just so thankful to be able to have that as a reality for yourself. So,
right, right.
um, I think in like making the decision, like you were saying, is a lot of it is just kind of, you know, you, being around the people, um, who are, have interest in you and everything like that. You just kind of, you rely on yourself and, your gut, and then the people that you trust a lot, what they think. And, for me, I really relied on my family and the people that I trust the most to, kind of help me out, like with the decision, on Boston College. And, um, I kind of, whatever, rallied off them. And obviously, with my parents, it's, talked about it a lot. And then eventually, came to the decision. We realized that that was, the best thing for us as a family. So, um, it's just kind of relying on, what you think is the right thing to do and what you want to do. And then, your family and the people you trust to really help guide you and, you know, put you in the right direction. So,
Yeah, and if you don't, I mean, if you don't mind, and you're just bringing it up, if you don't mind talking about that process a little bit, you were committed to Syracuse. That was a school that you were interested in, obviously wanted to go to. I think just Saturday, I believe November 2nd, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, sir.
Yeah, you kind of said, you know what, I want to go to Boston College and be closer to home. I mean, if you don't mind just going into that decision making however you want, and you can tell me to see you later too. But I'm just interested because obviously, it's closer to home, it's hometown, Boston College. I'm sure you've watched a million games there. You've dreamed of playing there locally as a kid. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of that too. So I'm so interested in the decision process that went along with that change.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like obviously, first of all, I'm very grateful for everyone at Syracuse for, them believing in me and all that kind of stuff. But for me, ultimately, it was when I look at, what I wanted and what I thought was the right thing, it was, being able to stay and, I want to be able to go, try and win a championship and bring a championship home for Boston. You know, not that there's anything wrong with Syracuse. I think that would have been great too. But it's like, I grew up, whatever, 40 minutes down the road from, Boston College. So, why not go try and do it for the community that, you have grown up in, everything like that. So, like I said, it was, I was saying to you earlier, it was always a dream of mine to be able to play for, um, you know, BC, having, always seen their games on TV. I'd, gone to a good amount of the games, and it was just something that it was always like really cool to me, to have the opportunity to be able to do. And then, I thought it was a good opportunity, hopefully I can help them win some games. And, uh, yeah, really for me, it felt like that was the right thing for me to do to, go stay home, be close to family. And, uh, you know, I really just wanted to be able to play, for this community because whatever, this is where I've, grown up in. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, you have to, again, at the end of the day, and I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. I think you're a young kid. You're making decisions based off of a lot of different, things. But at the end of the day, I think anybody who, especially in this area, man, when you're a hometown person, hometown people, there's just something about wanting to have a career there or build a name for yourself there. Like you look at like someone like Doug Flutie who walks around here, everybody knows who Doug Flutie is. And most people know who Doug Flutie is because of Boston College, more than anything else. So I totally understand that. And I think that that's a very adult and a very mature decision to make based off of going with your heart and going with your gut. And good for you. I'm glad that
appreciate
you made a decision that works best for you. So that's great. Who's Bo a little bit outside of football? I know that you're also a baseball player and multiple sport athletes. To hear that, I mean, for so many people that specialize in a certain sport,
Mhm.
there are successes to it, and I'm not knocking it. But to hear that you are also a baseball player as well, and a pretty good one. I was looking up some of your numbers actually. It's great to see that you're not just kind of like a one sport person. You learn how to be a leader in different sports. You learn how to train your body in different sports. Nutrition. I mean, is working out nutrition are you very strict with that? Do you have like a kind of nutrition plan that you follow? I mean, how does that kind of work for you?
Nutrition wise, I'm not super strict on it, but it's, eating plenty of, it's always been for me just eating plenty of food, getting in plenty of calories, because I want to, be able to get bigger and everything like that. And then eating plenty of protein. But the whole, like, I'm not super like, you know, oh, I don't eat over this amount of calories and I don't eat this kind of food, all that kind of stuff. It's more just making sure I get in enough protein and enough calories. So whatever. And then lifting wise, obviously, I'm very strict on that. And I'm usually, working out 2 times a day throughout the winter. And then, summer, you have 2 times a day and everything like that. Throughout the season, it's a little lighter because you have practice and everything like that. And, you have to let your body recover. But so it's a little lighter for me right now. But, you know, that's really my priority for everything that I'm doing is just, everything kind of revolves around when can I, my workouts here and here. And, you go to the field and then you go to the gym and then, in the morning you have a lift, whatever, after school. And so, yeah, that I prioritize the lifting and getting bigger, faster, stronger a lot. So,
I mean, people that are listening to this, I mean, nonchalantly, I work out twice a day. Like, dude, like people, like for you, for people to understand when they want to become elite and they want to become next level at the sport that they play, and what are they willing to do? I mean, talk about that sacrifice right there because that's twice a day. Obviously, kids your age aren't doing that. Your workouts are even that much more extreme and obviously challenging your body to that next level. I mean, there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with that too, for a young kid socially and everything else that tags along with that. I mean, for you, talk about, I guess, the sacrifice that kind of does go hand in hand with the training that you do.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a sacrifice, but at the same time, it really doesn't feel like one because it's what it's like what I want to be doing. So if you're someone who's, you kind of just are like, damn, I don't want to work out, then it
Yeah.
probably isn't going to work out in the first place, because if you don't want to be there, you're never going to really, obviously there's going to be days where, everyone's going to not want to be there and you're going to want to whatever, and you have to go anyways and do what you have to do. But I really owe a lot, all of that to my dad, and, just kind of putting that in me since I was a kid to, you know, the working out and getting better and all that kind of stuff. I always did it with him when I was a little kid. And then once I got to middle school, it was kind of like what my lifestyle was. It wasn't like I was changing to do a ton of stuff differently. I would just kind of, that was what I always did as a kid with my dad. So I just did it on my own when it came time to, be on my own and do stuff. So it's kind of just like been a way of life for me since I was a little kid. So, uh, but yeah, I mean, sacrifice wise, I think you just have to love doing it. And, if you don't love doing it, then there's nothing wrong with that. You can, there's plenty of other stuff you can be good at. But I think that you really do have to, it has to be something that you want to do every day for you to really be able to be successful at it for a long period of time. So,
Yeah, and I think, and I love people hearing that because to me, that's what it takes. Like, that's what it takes. Like, when you say it's not a sacrifice, you're right. Because if you want to be doing that, you're doing that. If you want to play at that next level or be able to play at that next level or put yourself in a position to be able to, that's what other people are doing to put themselves in that position. So, I thought that was outstanding. And your answer was perfect. I mean, for other people to hear, I mean, it's not for everybody, and that's okay, right? There's other things that other people can be great at, but dude, obviously you're pursuing something great here for you, and that's awesome. Who are you a little bit outside of just like sports in general? Like what type of music gets you going? Like if before your game Friday, what do you have in the pods? What are you listening to that's getting you a little like cranked up, juiced up before it goes?
I'm a big grunge guy. That's my
Okay.
favorite kind of music. So Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of my favorite kind of music. But I listen to a little bit of everything, but um, yeah, those are my favorites. So
Alice in Chains. I called the Rich Shirtling show. It's 100.7 at WZLX in the morning when I drive to work. And I think the drummer from Alice in Chains was playing
oh
somewhere in Boston. And I happened to be call number 10. So I had to go against the guy on like a question. We end up
oh
tying.
wow,
If you tie or win, you get the ticket. So I took the tickets. But being a nice human being I am, I actually gave them to the person calling number 11 who was on hold because
wow,
I guess
good
they were a
for him.
huge fan. And I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, like I have kids. It'd be hard for me to get in there anyways. Like I'll just whatever. So,
awesome.
but yeah, when your sales change, just cranked in my head a little bit. That's
Yeah,
interesting because I mean, truthfully, a lot of is that where your warm up music is? Is that where your guys' warm up music is, or is it completely different?
no, I don't. We don't listen to anything that I actually like.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
up to
yeah.
me, but I don't like any of the music that we listen to in the warm ups, to be honest with you. But um, yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
listen to
it's
when I
so
want
funny. I mean, music to us, like we cover a lot of programs, so it's so interesting when you get there early to hear what team soundtracks actually are.
to. Yeah,
And obviously a lot of it is hip hopish, more hip hopish, and
yeah,
some of the music I know, and some of them I'm like, what the hell? And then I turn around, kids are like dancing on the field. I'm like,
yeah.
what? Like, but I mean, it's fun scene. I mean, that's what we
Mhm.
cover and stuff, but. I always ask that because I get such different answers when it comes to music. And even for this podcast, like a lot of stuff we post, like thinking about the songs we post with things and the message or
Yeah,
the words, like sometimes it takes us a little bit to figure out even the simplest of posts
yeah,
to connect music. And I think music is a thing that just gets so connected with sports. And I always like to see kind of the genre of music that people listen to and so on.
yeah.
Just funny. You a big video game player?
I'm not. I don't.
No.
I don't play many video games, but I whatever. I'll have fun when if I'm at my friend's house or something. I enjoy playing them, but I don't have like an Xbox or anything like that,
Do
so
you
I don't
like
play.
TV binge watch? Like any shows you watch or all-time favorites? I mean, I see a Scarface. Are you a big like
Oh yeah, you see
mobster
a
movie,
Scarface right
mobster?
there. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I'm more of a movie guy than a TV show kind of guy, but
yeah. Okay.
I say my favorite kind of movies is favorite movie of all time would be between Braveheart and Gladiator. I love those too.
Okay, man. So you
Yeah,
are like, yeah, you're like your dad's era, like my era. I mean, Gladiator's kind of
yeah,
like when I was in high
cool.
school,
Yeah,
early college. I mean, God, when he fights in Gladiator
yeah,
and picks up the dirt, like, you know how many people, and at least when I played sports, like everybody started picking up the dirt and
oh
going like
really?
this after everybody, dude,
That's fun.
everybody. And then obviously Braveheart, that movie just like th- people started painting their faces just
Yeah,
like Mel Gibson did. Everybody
yeah,
using whatever their team color was. So two
mhm,
movies that definitely influence sports, for
yeah.
sure. Um, I mean, for you, just in general, I mean, kind of sitting back and maybe never even thinking about it and thinking about it now. I mean, all the hard work you've put into what you've done, and you think about the teams you've played for, the workouts that you've had, or the places that you've traveled. Um, to see the position that you are in now, when you look back at a lot of that stuff, what comes to just like what comes to your mind, and why I ask that is because there's so many young listeners that we have, and I always say like, what's your advice to young athletes, or what's your advice to young coaches when I have them on here? But like you're living proof of it right now. Like you are going through the process. You are still in high school. You know where you're going to school. You know where your fall is going to be, and you've done all that to get to where you're at. Like talk about that. I mean, thinking about it and looking at it, I mean, obviously there's more to come. The book is still being written, but to get to this chapter, to this point, I mean, looking back on it, how's it feel?
I mean, it feels it feels really cool to be able to be, in a position to be able to play college football and play college football at a Division I level is something that I always dreamed to be able to do. So um, it's it's honestly like if I were to tell myself as a kid, I'd lose my mind because it's something that I've always really dreamed of doing. So I think when I look back at it, though, it really just kind of like you think about how grateful you are for the people who've helped you along the way to be able to get you there because realistically, no matter who you are, you're not doing it on your own. And there's a lot of people who help you and, boost you to be able to, whether they, it's guys telling you, oh, you should do this workout or, just like helping you out when you, need kind of stuff like that. Or, guys helping you out with, um, you know, rides to be able to get to the gym and all this kind of stuff like that. It's, you just think about, all those kind of guys that help, that helped you get there. And then, um, and at the same time, it's like, I think looking back at it, you realize like all the like for a young kid who's kind of growing up and playing football and wants to be able to play at a college football level. I think a lot of it is kind of just make like the decisions that you make. Um, it's like every little decision you make adds up over time, and you know whether you decide okay today I'm going to take the gym off. Say you do that twice a week. It seems little for 1 week, but then you do it, you know, whatever 5 weeks in a row, 10 weeks in a row, then that's you know 2 workouts a week that someone else has on you. So I think it's a lot of it is just decisions and, what choices you make really add up over time. And I think just trying to make the right decision all the time. And obviously you're not going to always, you're going to, sometimes you're going to, do the wrong thing or make the wrong choice. But if you can, really try to stick to thinking of always making the right choice, you'll probably end up in a pretty good situation no matter what you really end up doing. So that's what I would say looking back on it.
Yeah, I mean that's a great answer. I mean it's a great answer, and I think it's important because so many people want to be it, right? But so many people aren't willing to put in the work to be it. And I think at a young age you clearly realize, like I joke, but like I heard the legend of you, and obviously making a decision that you felt was best for you very early on when you realized that football is a sport that you're pretty good at and maybe better that than a lot of other people. So you continue, and that comes through the hard work, and it's not just you're naturally talented, it's the work that your coach mentioned that you put in the weight room, the teammate that you are, and obviously what it takes in and out of on and off the field, but in and out of the classroom as well. Do you know what you're taking up at school? Do you have any idea, or is football kind of the big thought for you right now and that's it?
Yeah, football is, you know, the big thought for me right now, but
Yeah.
I do have to figure that out soon. But I am not 100% sure. I still have to figure it out. So
It's totally
I'll
fine,
look it
dude.
all
It's
up.
totally fine. I
But
always say it's too young to know what you want to be when you go to college. Just what you kind of go to figure out a little
yeah.
bit. So
Mhm.
I'm totally with you on that. And it's great. I mean, the one interesting thing about you and the things that I've read about you the most, and now kind of seeing you and having you on the podcast here a little bit, is just like how like easygoing of a person that you are. I mean, most people that I've read or have talked to about you saying that you're an extremely coachable person who works hard, who motivates others around him. Um, for you, I mean, I look at your accolades, and I guess I'll kind of not end the podcast here, but this is kind of like a good question that I wanted to ask you, and I want to circle back to. But I mentioned at the very beginning at the top here, I mean, and this is more of like a motivation thing, I guess I'm asking. 2023, 2100, all 2150 all-purpose yard, 31 touchdowns, including 8 touchdown game I mentioned. I mean, when you have a season like that, dude, when you go into your off season, I mean, you're playing baseball, but obviously the motivation of being recruited and playing at that next level is a huge motivation. But talk about just like that off season, you can keep yourself motivated, but how are you keeping your teammates motivated? How are you a guy who's now leading not just on the field, but coach mentioned you in the weight room? Like, how are you a guy in the weight room that's either getting others there or getting people to work to their capacity there, not just to be there as like a social club?
I mean, I think that a lot of it is, once you go from being a freshman, it's all about the work that you put in and what you do. And then as you get older, once you get it to be like a junior and a senior, it's more of, and Coach Willie would talk to me about this all the time. And it's like, what can you get the guys next to you to do, and how can you get them better? Because it's like, you can be as good as you want, but if the 10 guys around you on the field aren't, doing what they need to do, you're never going to win a game. So, I think you really just have to, first of all, you have to be a guy who actually cares about the people next to you. And if I don't care about someone who's next to me, to, their growth and how they end up, benefiting from what they be doing, then they're obviously not going to listen to what you have to say, because you're just doing it for your own benefit. So I think, trying to focus on, really benefiting them as people and not just benefiting yourself. And then, at the same time, something I would always tell everyone is, we'd be in the weight room, and if whatever, like, people complain about, like, when you're at captain's practices and, you make them run the suicides, whatever, until I say, guys, the thing that, me and, the captains would say is, no one has to be here. If you want to be here, you can go play on the soccer team. Nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing in soccer at all. I think soccer's a great sport. That was just kind of what we would say. There's a whole lot of other teams you can go play on, but this
Yeah.
isn't a team that you can play on and not run sprints. So, that's the standard that we have. And it's, just trying to uphold the standard and do what we have to do to, um, you know, get to a championship level, which is what you play for. You don't play to lose games. So you have to do what you have to do to be able to win them.
Great. I mean, dude, I'd want to build a team around you, man. Holy cow. Extremely impressed. I mean that obviously, I mentioned to you, I love your dad. And I played with your Uncle Steve. Your Uncle Steve was a tough player too, dude, like a big, scary dude. But I loved him. And, I've obviously known your family, but to see the success that you've had and see how hard you've worked. And like I said, I've been hearing about you for a long time. I'm so glad we are able to get you on here, man. I mean that you're impressive, and to see it firsthand now, to talk to you and have this conversation with you, like I said, I'm thoroughly impressed, and I will be following you. I will be a humongo Bo McCormack fan going forward, and I can't wait to watch you on TV, and I mean that. That's going to be something really, really cool to see soon.
I appreciate that. It was great for me to be able to come on here. Like I said earlier to you, it was really, really cool when I saw the account and everything. Obviously it fired my dad up because,
Yeah.
he hadn't heard from you in a little bit, whatever. So he was really cool. It's really cool for him to hear about that. So I was super excited to be able to come on, and, very, very glad that you know, you were able to have me on.
Yeah, I mean that, dude. And anything going forward, especially like, I mean, honestly, man, you want to send me any film you have or anything, send it to. I mean, going forward, like even film from this week, dude, we'll
Mm.
gladly show it off and post it on our story. And whatever I can do for you going forward, man, you just ask, and if I can do it and how I can do it, we'll figure it out. But big fan, very impressed, and glad you were able to come on here today. So I mean that. So thank you. Um, and for us guys, we're obviously have a huge week coming up. We're covering the Shoba Tech round one of playoffs. Number 4 seed Division 8, undefeated season 8-0. They get a home game, I think first ever home playoff game. So super excited for them to be there and covering that. And shout out to Shawsheen Techet and number 1 overall seed in Division 5. That's a team we've been covering for a pretty long time. So a lot of fun coverage coming up for us. Bo McCormack, keep your eyes on him. We will be showing him off on our page. So trust me, the numbers will be unrealistic, and we'll be like, yes, but they are realistic. So thanks for coming on here today. So I'm your host, Anthony Petrellis. Till next time.